Kufi Beis Lach Tezayin. The Mechaber says, Leit Halach in Kufi Beis. Yesh Mish Omer, the Mechaber says, there are those who say, Shahanizim Ripas Avikucham, someone who's careful to not eat Pas Akum, V'hu B'derach, and he's traveling, meaning he doesn't have his usual things available. Im Yesh Pas Shal Yisroel, Adalan Milin Yantin. If in his travels he's going to come across Pas Yisroel up to 4 mil away from where he is, we'll explain what that is in a second. It's a measure of distance. If he's going to reach Pas Yisroel within those 4 mil, he should wait. But if he's not going to reach it in 4 mil, then he could eat what he has, I mean the Pas Akum or the Pas Palter, where he is right now, he could eat it. And
now, when we say million, let's say he plans on getting there in 2 days, right? Are we talking about area or talking about time also?
We're going to talk about that in a second.
I figured I saw that right now.
Okay. But we already explained earlier, and we'll explain what this earlier is. We explained earlier that the minhag is to be makel, you do not have to wait down mil. If it's not available right where you are, then you could eat as is. So we'll explain what the Ramah we're going to leave towards the end. Okay? So first of all, where does this thing come from about waiting 4 mil? We'll see what the shear is in a second, but where does this thing come from? So it's a Gemara. The Gemara is not talking about Pas Yisroel. The Gemara says a person needs to daven with a minion. Right. Or he needs water for washing his hands to eat bread. Yeah. So the Gemara says if he's traveling, he doesn't have those things available. If he's going to get there within 4 mil, then he has to wait. If not, he could just daven where he is, or wash, or eat, just holding the bread, covering his hands, but not without washing his hands. Okay, now, we're just applying that. The Rishonim, the Achronim are applying that to a case here in Pas Yisroel, the same kind of a thing. But we have to remember that the Gemara has an end to it. Okay, that Gemara says, that it says that you have to go 4 mil, is only means if it's going to be in the direction that you're traveling. I mean, you're planning on stopping now for the night, but you know that, 2 mil from here, there's going to be a place where you have a minion, so you have to continue beyond what you would have wanted to, because you're headed in that direction anyhow. But if you're in that direction, and you're going to make it to the minion, of course. But if the thing is behind you, I mean, you passed the shul already, or it's out of your way, completely out of your way, then you only have to go, the Gemara says 1 mil. You don't have to go 4 mil, you have to go 1 mil. Okay? Which is to say, when we say 1 mil means a round trip of 2 mil. You're going 2 mil out of your way. If you're here and the thing is behind you a mil, you have to go back a mil and forward, so half the amount you have to go out of your way as opposed to going in your way. Okay, and of course, that then applies over here. The Mechaber here is just telling you Pas Yisroel has the same rules as those things of Daled Mil, but everybody speaks out that he means Daled Mil if it's in the direction you're going. But if it's behind you, then it's the rule of 1 mil. And in Aruch in a bunch of places, he mentions this 4 mil, 1 mil split. Over here, he doesn't, but he's obviously referring to that. Okay, it's coming off of that Gemara, and he obviously means it over here. Okay, another kula that has from those dinim is that when we say that you have to go 4 mil in order to get, let's say, a minion, that only is true if you know that the thing is going to be there. Okay, you know that there's going to be a rest stop in 2 mil, and you're going to be able to wash your hands over there. But if the other thing is only a suffix, you're not sure there's a minion in that place, but maybe there's something over there, then you're not mechuyev to go. You're only mechuyev to do this, go 4 mil, if you know that when you finally get to that place, there's going to be some place about it. If you're not sure, then you don't have to. So the same thing for the Pas Yisroel also, again, it doesn't speak it out, but it's the same, it's coming off of those things, and the same thing over here also. If you don't know that there's going to be the Pas Yisroel available in that 2 mil, then you don't have to. Okay. Now, what happens if the person is not traveling? Well, the Gemara's case is a guy who's traveling. What happens if a person is sitting at home? Okay, he's just sitting at home. He's sitting in his house, and there's a minion that's 2 mil from his house. Is he mechuyev to go?
To the minion?
2 mil. It's 2 mil. So that's the minion. There's a minion that's 2 mil from his house. Is he mechuyev to go 2 mil because is he mechuyev to go 2 mil like the din is of a person who's traveling in a certain direction? Or is he mechuyev to go 1 mil because it's out of his way? Because he's sitting on his couch. He's not going in that direction altogether. Right. So should we treat him as if he has to go 4 mil in that case? Or 2 or 1? What's the shear for that kind of a person? And for Pas Yisroel, we hear it more because the person's sitting at home and they know that the supermarket is this far away that has the Pas Yisroel, and the supermarket that doesn't is closer. Is he mechuyev to go that far to get it? So the thing is like this. The Magen Avram brings Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that if there's a guy who's a guard, okay, and he has a booth he's supposed to sit in, and he needs to wash his hands or go to go to daven, he has to go 1 mil to do his thing. I mean, that's a person who's not traveling. This is an example of a person not traveling. He's just sitting still. The Yerushalmi says you have, his share is 1 mil. He has to go 1 mil to get to the place. So the Magen Avraham says, sounds like that guy who's in a guard with he's forced to be in that spot. Like he's stuck to that spot. He has a job. He's supposed to be in a certain place. That guy has the din of 1 mil. But a person, so I'm not sure that wasn't how he can get out. Then I'm not sure how he can get out. But he's stuck to a spot. He's supposed to be in a certain spot. But a person who the Magen Avraham says who's just sitting in his house, he doesn't have any special reason why he has to be here. The Magen Avraham thinks, he's not sure, but he thinks that person has to share a 4 mil. He thinks that person, the only people who have the din of 1 mil is either someone who's forced to be in a spot, or who has it's sort of like a special nebuch that he has to go backwards. It's sort of like hurts you to tell a guy I have to go backwards out of his way. But a person who's just a guy at home is like a guy has to go backwards. That's what you would think. The Magen Avraham is making a dig from the Yerushalmi that you might not have to, and the Shulchan Aruch actually passes like that. Okay, that a person sitting at home has to go 4 mil in order to get to his anywhere, to the minyan or to wash or for Pas Yisroel. Okay, he doesn't say Pas Yisroel, but the same thing for Pas Yisroel. Okay? Now the Pri Megadim and many others argue they don't agree with that, and the Mechaber says passages like that if your person sitting at home, he has to go only 1 mil. A person going from where he's parked. He's just sitting at home and he's reading the paper. That person has to go 1 mil in order to get a minyan or water or Pas Yisroel, but he does not need to go 4 mil. Okay? And what it comes out is that it's two different ways of understanding what the Gemara said. Is the rule that you have to go 4 mil, okay? And there's a special exception for people who are going backwards. Mm-hmm. So people who are being really, it's sort of like it hurts you to tell you go backwards. Go backwards. That's a special exception for those people, but everybody has the rule of 4 mil, in which case the guy sitting at home has the regular rule of 4 mil. Or is it the other way, that the rule is really 1 mil, but if you happen to be going in that direction anyhow, so Chazal said, you're going that direction anyhow, so come on, go a little inconvenience yourself for the mitzvah. You're going to go tomorrow that way anyhow, so go a little further. But that's how to understand it. Okay? And it can say that the machlokes between these achronim, for the guy sitting at home, is a machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Because I told you the Gemara has 2 cases. The Gemara has 2 cases of a person washing his hands and going to daven with the minyan. Okay? But there's really a 3rd case in the Gemara. The 3rd case in the Gemara is a person who works for somebody, and he's making bread for somebody, and that person eats his chulin b'tayra, meaning he eats even his regular food. He makes sure it stays tar. So that person, it's like a chumrah to do that. It's like many of these. It's a chumrah to do that thing. So he needs to tovel something in order to make the food b'tayra, and the mikvah is not here. Okay, so the Gemara says he has to go 4 mil up to 4 mil to tovel the thing that he needs to tovel in order to make the food b'tayra. Okay, that's the Gemara says. That's a 3rd case. You have to go 4 mil. So now there's the machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi
learned more get a netter, or it's the same chumrah
it's along the lines of these, and it's a minyan. You're supposed to daven with a minyan. You're supposed to daven with a minyan.
Yeah, but if you don't, there's some b'toras when someone is Mechaber on himself to do chulin, tahara. Right. Is that the same level as someone who's makban on Pas Yisroel?
I think so.
Was that b'toras netter more with that?
I think someone said this last time that both of them, a person was in fact Mechaber, but if it's at certain points that I'm excused from it, that wasn't Mechaber for those
people. We said before that by Pas Yisroel, Chazal never made the din of Pas Akum in such a thing.
Yes, we'll say the same.
But Tahara, it more could be b'toras netter.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but b'toras netter,
you have excuses.
That
one.
That's b'toras netter. So if you're somewhere where there isn't Chol Yisroel, you'd still have to keep Chol Yisroel.
No matter what, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to see that. I'm not sure. Okay, so Tosfos learns that, Rashi learns that the person that this guy who's doing this thing is not traveling. He's just stopped making chulin b'tayra. He's sitting in his house. And what's the din? The din is he has to go 4 mil, and Rashi says there's no example that person has to go 1 mil. When the Gemara says later that if you're going backwards, it's 1 mil, he says it doesn't make sense to this kind of guy. So according to Rashi,
any direction he goes is backwards.
Right, any direction. So according to Rashi, there's an example in the Gemara of a person who has to travel 4 mil, even though he's not headed that way. He's not headed that way. He just stopped going 4 mil. So according to Rashi, there's such an idea of a person who has to go 4 mil without having to go in the direction he's going, which is like the Magen Avraham. Now you came into Shulchan Aruch, who says that a person who's even not having going that direction might have to go 4 mil. It's an example of a person have to go like that. But according to Tosfos learns that the case of this guy is he's traveling also. He was also traveling, and he's on his way, and there's going to be a mitzvah in 4 mil, and if there's no mitzvah in front of it, but the same, if it's backwards, go only 1 mil. According to Kashrus, there's no example in the Gemara of a person who has to travel 4 mil for when he's not on the way. According to all the cases of 4 mil of a person who's on his way anyhow.
Not out of his way.
The case, according to Rashi, there is a case in the Gemara of a person going 4 mil, even though he's not going that way anyhow. So according to Rashi, would be like the Magen Avram, and Shulchan Aruch would be like Rashi, and the Pri Megadim and Mechaber would be like, could be like Kashrus. Okay, fine. Next, we have a question like this. We know that a mil is 2,000 amos. Okay, that's how much a mil is, a measurement of distance. It's 2,000 amos. That's the tchum. It's 2,000 amos. The how long it takes to go a mil. So we have a din in Hilchos Pesach that it takes. We paskin that it takes 18 minutes to go a mil, and that's the shear for how long it becomes chametz. What? That's how long it takes for them to become chametz. Now, of course, in chametz, the shear is 18 minutes. Right? Mil is a way of measuring 18 minutes. That an average person walks that much, but of course the shear is chametz becomes in 18 minutes. What will be in our din? In our din is the shear. Let's say the shear is for 1 mil. Let's use the cases where the person has to go 1 mil. Is the shear 18 minutes, meaning I have to go 18 minutes out of my way to get to this thing, or is the shear 2,000 amos? Okay, meaning what happens if I'm going to drive to shul? Okay, if I'm going to drive to shul, so I could go a mil. I can go 5 mil in 18 minutes. I can go much faster than that.
I would say.
Will take
So the shaila is the shear.
highway can go like, but the Gemara can 72 minutes.
So that's the liars. They're actually more. They bring back. That's very good. So the shaila is the shear. And what happens in the opposite case? What happens if the shul is a half a mil away from my house? Okay, but there's a snowstorm going out. Okay, it's going to take me a half an hour to get to shul. Okay, it's going to be longer to walk there. So is the shear a mil? Is the shear distance? So if it's within a mil, I have to go to shul, get out of my bed. And if it's less than a mil, I don't. Or is the shear time? Now the logic, I have to tell you that the logic says that it should be time.
Yeah.
The point is you have to inconvenience yourself a certain amount to do this mitzvah. You have to Pas Yisroel, you have to inconvenience yourself. So if I live in Northbrook, okay, and I want to go maybe too far. I live even here, and I want to go to Skokie, so it's more than a mile away, but it's not going to take me 18 minutes to get there. Okay, so that's a shayla. The logic says it should be in the time. You have to inconvenience yourself this much. The other side is that there's maybe loy plug. Chazal maybe share. The share is 2,000 amos. That's what it is. Okay, so in fact, this year.
How much is it in blocks? An amma is about 1.5 feet. How much is that?
How much is it? It's about
approximately. You don't got to get
three quarters of a mile.
3/4 of a mile.
Is it? Okay, so this shayla happened to me last week. Okay, this actually she was supposed to be last week, right in time for that, but it didn't happen.
You didn't have 18 minutes.
No, so last week, the first thing was, I was in California, and I was going from a plant back to my hotel. Okay, and as I'm driving, I was driving on the freeway, and a little bit more than a half a mile off the highway was a shul, and they were davening mincha in a couple of minutes. Okay, so it's obvious there that I had to get off the highway and go to daven mincha. Okay, because they were davening mincha, and they were a little bit more than a half a mile off the highway. Okay, so of course I was mechuyev to go out of my way, up to a mil out of my way. This was a little more than a half a mil out of the way. So of course I was mechuyev to go. Of course I was mechuyev to go to daven mincha over there. The shayla was like this.
Even though there may be another meeting coming up later on?
This was the only shul in the entire Orange County of California. Okay, the only shul with 3 minyanim a day.
Then I hear you.
Okay, this was the shul. Okay, now, but the shayla was like this. Then I finished davening mincha, and I went back to the hotel, and I went to sleep. The next morning, from my hotel to the shul was about 8 mil. Okay, it was a little more than 5 miles. It was about 8 mil from the thing, but the drive was a 7-minute drive to get there. Okay,
and you're not going back to the plant.
No, I had to do that. I was going to go there just to daven. So this is the shayla that we had, which is it's something which is less than 18 minutes away. Okay, it takes less than the time of a hiluch mill. It takes less than 18 minutes away, but it was 8 mil. It was 8 mil from the hotel to daven. So my
was daven in the hotel on Kashrus, or go to the daven Kashrus?
Correct. Now, of course, as a nice, fine Jewish boy, of course I was going to go to the daven Kashrus. Of course I was. The shayla, but indeed, am I mechuyev to go there or am I not mechuyev? Okay, and it's even more connected to last week because the rayas that the Achronim bring are from last week's parsha was about Pesach Sheni, and the Gemara talks about a person who's b'derech rechoika, but he can get there on a fast horse. That's exactly what it talks about. And there's rayas from that case, and this sefer over here, this is just for Moshe. This sefer, this sefer over here talks about the shaila, the sefer that I had never heard of until now, a sefer called Pas Yisroel. It talks about this shaila, bringing rayas from that din of Pesach Sheni, whether you are or not mechuyev to go.
Who's the author?
Yaakov
It's me from TikTok.
from Wutzer.
You can see his name here in the bottom, whoever. Okay, so now,
Everybody you mentioned.
So, the Achronim have a machlokes about this. And the Shevet HaLevi, the Aruch HaShulchan say, the shear is completely dependent on a mill. Distance. It's a measure, take out your tape measure, and if it's within a mill, you have to go, and if it's out of a mill, you don't have to go. And they say it's like plug. Doesn't make a difference if the weather is good or bad, or you have a fast horse, or you're slow, or you have a cane. The shear is a mill.
Who says this?
The Aruch HaShulchan says it, the Shevet HaLevi says it, that the shear is a mill. That's it. Whatever, as far as it doesn't even how fast you can get there. Okay, so in theory, according to that thing, I would not be able to go to shul that day. Okay. The Mechaber in one place says like them also. He brings this teshuvah, he brings mamish word for word, so he's bringing from this teshuvah B'Yakov that you're not mechuyev to go. The shear is a mill loy plug. Okay, the problem is that in the Bir Halacha, in a different place, it says mistama. You have to. He says if you have a gamla parcha, which is the Gemara's situation, a speedy horse, flying horse, or camel, or
I think to the zoo.
sorry,
You have to take
camel,
to the zoo.
or the Mechaber says in parentheses, so you have a train. You have a train. That's his example. You have a train. So he says, he says it seems to him that you should have to go 18 minutes. Doesn't matter how far it is. The shear should be 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a number of people point out that there's an apparent steer in the Mechaber. In one place he says the shear is a mill, like plug. Doesn't make a difference how quickly you can get there. And in another place he says that the shear is it depends on time. Okay. And this is a very real shiloh. It's real if a person is living more than the mill away, and he wants to eat Pas Yisroel. So for most of us, going 10 mil, we can go that in 18 minutes. It's easy. We're just going to drive anyhow. Okay? So it's a very real shiloh how much a person is mechuyev to be Mechaber. So there's a sefer called Yimei Yisrael, contemporary sefer called Yimei Yisrael on Hilchos Tefillah, and he brings that he asked Reb Chaim Kanievsky this shiloh, the steer Mechaber, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky says the following. He said, the Mechaber, when he said he goes on a mill, that's for a guy who's traveling on a donkey. I think he's on a donkey. Okay? And that guy, meaning the traveling is not going to be an easy trip. It's going to be a farshlept anyhow. So he can go a little faster on the donkey than he can go by foot. So we just say loy plug, doesn't make a difference. So shear is a mill, shear is in distance. The Mechaber talks about a train, that's talking about a guy who has an easy trip. Like he says, like you're going in a car. You're going in a car, it's an easy trip. So then we can't use the loy plug of going by distance, and we say if I care 18 minutes, that's how much you have to inconvenience yourself.
So it would have to be not communicated with the snow.
Yes, in the snow.
Well,
You would say loy plug, and it would be a mill.
Right, it would be like a donkey.
Yes, it would be a donkey. I'm sorry, I didn't say that correctly. So okay, I can't tell you that I really understand. I can't tell you I fully understand it. And why the Mishnah wouldn't tell you that that's being clocked this way and that way, it's not. So I don't know how Gamla Parachas drive. I don't know how quickly they drive, but the Mishnah uses Gamla Paracha and train the
go
same
around
way.
and around and around.
But yeah, that's the one.
That's the slow one. That's the retired one.
That's the retired. Okay.
The
Anyhow,
other ones are out in the field.
that's the only answer that I saw that anyone gives to the shiloh. But as it stands, let's just leave it like this. A number of the Achronim say that it's completely dependent on distance. Completely dependent on distance. There's a steer in the Mechaber which way he holds, whether it's distance or time. And Chaim Kanievsky wants to say that if a person is going in a car or something that's an easy way to travel, maybe not on the divan, but an easy way to travel, then that person is the shear is time.
Time.
Sorry, not time. Not distance, time. Yes. Okay. Now, one last thing we have to clear up is the following. One last thing we have to clear up is like this. The Mechaber said, we had said we would do this. The Mechaber said in Halacha Ches, the Mechaber said, listen to the Mechaber in Halacha Ches. Yesh mishu aimer, the b'makom she'ein palta motzur klal. If you're in a place that has no baker, not a palta Yisrael, not a palta, there's no bakers in town, mutter afilu shabal batim. You're allowed to eat even pas balabayas of a goy. Okay, there are those who that there's nothing available, not even pas balas, you can eat pas balabayas of a goy. Okay, and the Ramah on that says, ve'ein tzarich laham pas kosher v'chein. The Ramah says, you don't have to even wait. Let's say it's going to be available shortly. In an hour from now, you can have it. In 15 minutes, the Ramah says, you don't have to even wait. Okay? So the question is like this. Does the Mechaber agree that you don't have to wait, or he doesn't agree? Over there, he doesn't say anything. He just says, you're allowed to eat it. Okay, that sounds a little bit like the Ramah, that you don't have to wait at all. You just eat it as you want to. But in Arden, he said, the Mechaber says, you have to wait either 4 mil, or we said, or even 1 mil, something.
Now, Camino, over there, you're going.
Which way?
By the other Allah, where you got to go 4 mil, 1 mil, or that is where you got to go to get it. You have nowhere to go to get it. You're waiting for somebody to come and deliver it.
So let's say it'll come. What's the difference?
You don't know. First of all,
you're saying maybe. Let's say we know that there's a delivery every morning at 8 o'clock.
so when I can go ahead and get up and go and do something, then the Chazal said, and I'm going to get up and go and do it. But to go ahead and wait for Yenim to bring it to you, that Chazal never said you're
That's what you in Arden.
In Tanzania, you're traveling anyway. Also.
Right.
Okay. No, but we said, let's say you're sitting at home.
You're sitting at home.
Let's say you're sitting at home.
Forget that.
And it's available a half a mil.
Forget that. Don't forget
And
that.
it's available a half a mil away, so you'd have to go get it.
Yeah.
So in Halacha Ches,
Okay.
there's nothing new. Let's say it's going to come. Let's say
I
you can
just
go
said
to
fine.
why?
Go ahead.
So
I said my opinion.
Okay. You think that in that case, it's not available no matter how far you go. It may drop in, like someone might bring it in, that you're not mechut. You think that's the difference?
That's what I would say. That's my...
So you think the Mechaber agrees, but the case are not exactly the same.
Right.
Okay. And there's a machlokes nachronim. Whether the Mechaber over there agrees to the Ramah or he doesn't agree. Okay. The Levush puts these halacha ches and halacha tezayin together. He completely mixes them together, saying the Mechaber holds in both cases they have to go a mil or 4 mil, whatever the shear is, and the Ramah says you don't have to wait anything. You don't have to wait anything, and therefore he says, we're Ashkenazim, we pass like the Ramah, that you don't have to wait at all. Okay? That's it. So he puts the two dinim all together.
According to him, the Mechaber, you'd have to wait to share the meal before...
Correct. You'd have to wait. When the Mechaber says you can eat it, you're supposed to understand that you're going to look at 8 halachas later, you're going to find out that there's a shear of 4 mil.
Whatever it is.
You're supposed to understand that. He doesn't say that, but you're supposed to understand. That's a little version. Okay. The Aruch HaShulchan says no, it's not true. The Aruch HaShulchan says that the Mechaber and Ches and Tezayin are talking about two different things. The Mechaber and Halacha Ches is talking about what's the letter of the law. The letter of the law is that if a person, if you don't have it available, he agrees with the Ramah, that if you don't have it available, Chazal, we're not masakin in that case, there's no takan at all, you can eat whatever you want to. You can eat it right away, you don't have to wait. In our case, he's medayik that the Mechaber says, Yesh mish emer shahan nizar mi pazakim, a person who's extra careful. That person wants to go beyond what you're mechuyev to do. He wants to be extra careful. That person should wait up to 1 mil. Okay? So
Even at home.
At home,
Right,
or if you're
right.
traveling, whatever the case is, that person has to wait up to 1 mil. The person who's being extra careful waits 1 mil. And on that, the Ramah is arguing, and saying that even that person doesn't have to wait. So the Mechaber in Ches is saying the letter of the law is you can eat it right away, and the Ramah agrees with him. And in our case, it's talking about a person who's extra careful. That person who's extra careful has to wait to 1 mil or 4 mil. But and the Ramah, even in that case, says you don't have to wait at all.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Regarding this, in other words, the bread was a staple item that was so part of the dietary figure at that time that's why we come of it today, but it's not that necessary as being a staple. We have other choices. Then they didn't have that many choices.
Yeah.
Is that
As like the workers who want service.
So what?
off of the
Is
city.
that a chiyuv?
So you want to say like this? The
I'm
Ramah.
saying the whole thing is that we're...
I understand.
doing this
Let's
Throw Pas
understand your
Yisroel
question.
out then.
The Ramah says.
But what else did they eat?
Rega. So let's understand your question. The Ramah says that since bread is such a staple, you're correct. Therefore, the whole gzera was taken back. So it may be that nowadays we're back to having it not such a staple. But if the gzera was thrown out, the gzera was thrown out. Your question is really on the Mechaber. The Mechaber says, since pas is such a staple, therefore, if you don't have it available, you can eat the other food. But the Mechaber holds like you judge it each case as it comes to you. So you say that nowadays, when it's not such a staple, maybe the Mechaber would say you shouldn't go to eat it. Okay, what to think about.
Well, that's what's even Pas Yisroel.
The pas, Ches was letting you eat even
Pas Babai.
What's up with
if it was.
I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't know what I'm saying. Just say this. I'm saying there's a difference in the case.
What?
In Tanzania, we're talking about someone who's neither
11 and a half, 12.
Pas Akum to get Pas Yisroel.
Yeah,
Ches is talking about Pas Akum.
Okay, outside, so I can't overturn.
correct.
I
If it
thought it
was.
was Pas Babai.
If it was. So you want it? So what's the difference? Wait. So if that's the difference, if you even let it into pas babai, shouldn't you be more machmir for that case? If you have to wait for pas alter,
That's why I'm rushing like the Aruch. You're already talking about someone who's already...
who's being extra careful.
Right, he's
He's medayik all these things. That case is where there's absolutely nothing to eat. It's right here if you want. He's medayik that case is where there was absolutely nothing to eat, and in our case, it's talking about that there's there is something and you're just an extra careful person. Okay, extra nizar. Okay, so, okay, this shiloh, we have a shiloh with the Mechaber. Fine. It has enough meaning to us, which is, during Aseres teshuvah, we've talked about this before, during Aseres teshuvah, the Shulchan Aruch says that even the people who are not makbid on Pas Yisroel should eat Pas Yisroel during Aseres teshuvah. Okay? So the question is like this. What happens if a person is sitting at Aseres teshuvah and he has no Pas Yisroel available, but if he waits, someone's going to bring him Pas Yisroel. Or if he travels a mil, he's going to be able to get Pas Yisroel.
What about every week? Shabbos, you're supposed to be machmer Pas Yisroel.
Put that on side. Just
Put it on side. On the
Okay.
show.
Put that on side. So what, if the guy has it,
Doesn't say that on Shabbos, does it?
The brewer brings it down.
okay, a mil away from him,
I'll show it to you.
within a mil, he could get Pas Yisroel. He could get Pas Yisroel if he wanted to.
Mhm.
During Aseres teshuvah. So should he do it or should he not do it?
Mhm.
Okay? So what would you say?
Should he?
Is he mechuyev? We're saying during Aseres teshuvah he's supposed to be eating Pas Yisroel. Okay? So does that mean that he's mechuyev to wait? You don't have to wait.
I would say no.
There's no chiyuv involved, it's just he's machmer.
Well, the Shulchan Aruch says he's supposed to do it.
He's a machmer, like Tova Lov Bracha.
Let's say
Let's say it would be.
I would say
On the side that it's more than double.
Shulchan Aruch, it says
This is clear also. Let's hear. So what do you want to say?
it does say.
What do you want to say? What do you want to
So what
say?
would you say?
I say no.
It's machlokes.
Because it's already, the fact that you're machmer, the fact that you're being machmer now is an extra thing anyway, to make you go out of your way to, for this extra.
Okay, but there's a better thing to say than that. That's I don't not disagree with what you're saying. There's a better thing to say. We have a machlokes right here in the Shulchan Aruch of a person that's being makbid on Pas Yisroel. Should he wait? Does he have to wait a mil or 4 mil? Doesn't that? The Mechaber says you have to wait 1 mil or 4 mil.
Right.
That's what the Mechaber says. And the Ramah says the minig is that you don't have to wait. That's what the Ramah says. V'nagel v'kvar nespar le'el denagel lahagel. You don't have to wait.
Right.
So we want to be machmir for the sheet to hold that you have to wait, that you have to eat Pas Yisroel. Fine, you have to eat Pas Yisroel. But in the din of waiting for Pas Yisroel, there's a machlokes whether you have to wait for a mil. You don't have to wait for a mil. And the Ramah says you don't have to wait for a mil. So we would have thought that since even though we're being machmir for that cheetah, but the Ramah says you don't have to wait. Even if you hold like that cheetah, you don't have to wait. So we would have said
Don't
wait.
You gotta
That's what we
slow.
would have said. That's what we would have said.
However,
The Magen Avraham says you have to wait for a mil. The Magen Avraham in Hilchos Rosh Hashanah says during Aseres teshuvah you have to eat Pas Yisroel. The Mechaber says we eat Pas Yisroel, and the Magen Avraham says, and it goes with those rules of the 4 mil and 1 mil, like it says in Kuf Yadays. You have to wait 4 mil and 1 mil. So we're like scratching our heads. What are you talking about? The end of that then says Ukfar Nespar Denogim Hakku. You don't have to wait. So why is the Magen Avraham saying you should wait 4 mil and 1 mil? What?
It's a chumrah of Aseres teshuvah. I don't know how stark the question that is.
Why is it?
Because it's a chumrah of Aseres teshuvah. They're going to be machmer like the Mechaber when it comes to Aseres teshuvah.
I'm going to sort of say what you're saying. It seems to me that what the Magen Avraham is learning is like this. When the Ramah said, "Kvar nispar le'el denogim hakku," okay, I suspect, I wonder, he doesn't mean Kvar nispar le'el and halacha ches. He means is, if you look back in halacha beis, you're going to find that the Ramah says that pas palter is always mutter. The Mechaber held that pas palter is only mutter sometimes.
Right.
The Ramah said it's mutter all the time. So the Ramah said, guys, really pas palter I hold is mutter all the time. You want to be machmir with your Pas Yisroel, like David said, don't take it so far and even do it when you have to wait. But it's based on the Ramah Shita that pas palter is really mutter all the time. So you want to be machmir, don't be machmir to even have to wait also. That you don't have to do. But during Aseres teshuvah, we're going like the Mechaber Shita. We're machmir from the Mechaber Shita that says that Pas Yisroel is not always, pas palter is not always mutter. Pas palter only sometimes mutter. Well, if that goes together with the Shita, waiting a mil. Those things go together. Waiting a mil, it's not a separate machlokes. Do you wait a mil or do you not wait a mil? Waiting a mil or not is dependent on whether you hold pas palter is really mutter. The Ramah holds it's really completely mutter. If it's completely mutter, don't get so carried away, wait the mil also. But if pas palter is not really mutter, it's really only mutter in some cases. In special cases, the Mechaber holds it's mutter. So then you wait a mil, but if you're Aseres teshuvah, you wait for that also. Okay, anyhow, that, to me, that fits better with the Levush. Okay, we'll put the refer to this here. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.